Good Sunday evening, everyone. I'm Carrie. This is Student Loan Chit-Chat. All right, it's hitting about 8:30 here in Tampa, Florida. Before we hit the hay, I thought, hey, let's look at a very short Dave Ramsey call. It's only about 4 minutes. I'm banking on my $225,000 student loan to be forgiven. Okay, so this ran 13 days ago. Just to give you a quick perspective of where I'm coming from, my $110,000 student loan that I held from the ages of respectively 38 years old. I started acquiring the debt at about 35 because I got two masters. But when the student loans were done being collected, all right, that put me at about age 38, and it finally got forgiven through the public service loan forgiveness waiver for 110,000 just last year, specifically August 2022. Okay, so that's the perspective I'm coming from. I want to thank you so much for joining me. Let's go ahead and bring this down, down, down. Let's do it.
Brought to
So
you by
glad
the
you're
Every
here.
Dollar app. Start budgeting for free today. Chris is in
Hi, Chris.
Augusta. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the Ramsey Show.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
Sure,
I
what's
really
up?
appreciate it.
Sure. How can we help?
I am 3 years from retirement. My student loans, I make my 120 payments. I'm in education for my public service loan forgiveness in April, so I'll be done with that.
Which, by the way, and as always, the video is in the description box for those who would like to hear it uninterrupted. Public service and education and military. I would say public service and education and military. The two areas that are the most bankable for loan forgiveness. In other words, meaning they have there's little controversy. Yes, I understand all the paperwork and stuff can be difficult. All right. We may or may not address that this evening. Okay. But as far as does this job qualify for public service loan forgiveness, public school teacher and military, two areas that if you can dot all the I's and cross all the T's, you'll pretty much get there.
The only debt we have outside of that is our house, and we know we're going to probably move in the next 5 to 7 years back to kind of where our people are at. So should I concentrate on paying off the house, or should I concentrate on building up my retirement fund?
I'm going to pause. Hold on.
What do you invest?
Okay. Before even Dave gets into this, we all know. Sometimes I think the two most volatile things are you a Democrat or a Republican? That's if you're watching, if you're here in the United States. Or do you believe in student loan forgiveness or not? I think those topics are very volatile. So I want to remind you, all right, I'm going to give this to you from my perspective, all right? Did you notice that he did not even mention the word student loan? He asked if they should, I believe if I'm correct, all right, work on their house payment or invest. I hope I've got that right. It is Sunday night, okay, so I start to get a little weary, okay? But do you notice there was no such thing about, and should we pay off our student loan? Why did he not mention it? Because he's 3 years away from it. So in his mind, I can tell you what he's thinking, okay? The student loan is already a done deal, solved and over. He'll just continue making his 36, I guess it is, he's got 4 years left, okay? I think he said 3 years. So he'll just continue making his payments. The student loan isn't even really in his mind. So did you notice that?
Investing right now into retirement?
I've had a 403B in quite a few different places. I just consolidated those with a Ramsey specialist. I'm a fiduciary.
Okay, just to make sure people understand the terms here, the 403B is the account for public service people. Okay, so like people who work for the state and stuff. I know that here in Hillsborough County School District in Tampa, we have a 403B. You can put money into that if you wish.
It's right at 40 grand. That I
Sorry,
have
you
in
broke
that.
up with us,
Hit
Chris.
right at 40 grand, yeah.
Yeah, right at 40
Okay.
grand. My retirement from teaching will be right at 60,000 a year.
Okay, that tells me he's had a pretty full career in teaching if he's going to be making around $60,000 a year.
Um,
So are you putting
and
anything into retirement now?
at the present moment, no, because of the student loans, and we do not have a fully funded emergency fund yet.
Let me repeat
Okay.
that. Hold on.
We do not have a fully funded emergency fund yet.
Okay, so he's not put anything into retirement right now because of the student loans. So literally, he's working his way right up to retirement with the student loans. This is something that I was very afraid of until I got my loans forgiven. My loans were actually supposed to be paid for 20 years. Before it fell under the public service loan forgiveness, which actually did not exist when I graduated from school with my teaching degree in 2006. PSLF, as we know it today, did not exist. There were programs that you could take for, work 5 years, say at a special needs or difficult, challenging school. And, they might give you, $5,000 or $5,000 for each year. Not quite sure about the details on that. But the PSLF program, as we know it now, where you can teach in any job, work in any government entity, be it military, police, firefighter, teacher, that did not come into existence until approximately 2008. I believe it was the first year Obama came into office. So 2007, 2008, I'm going to say PSLF came in closer to 2008, maybe even as late as 2009, because I was in my third year of teaching before I'd even heard about it. So when these loans came in, and that during that time period, you have to remember people like me who graduated before then, this program didn't even exist. So anyone who sits and says, well, you just wanted a teaching to get these loans paid for, the program didn't exist at the time. And it did not exist at the time this caller started teaching either.
Okay. Then you would not be paying into retirement or extra on your house, either one.
Oh, and that was the fear. Sorry, sometimes I get a little off track, okay? It's all relevant. Sometimes I just get a little off track. Okay, I was very afraid that I would not be able to have a cash savings to go along with my teacher pension and my Social Security. Because I was always raised under three legs of the stool: pension, Social Security, and your own cash savings. And I always knew that I really needed a cash savings. And my student loan was initially set to be paid until I was like 62. Not kidding. And I was supposed to pay approximately $485 a month, rounded off to $500. I think I did a YouTube short on that the other day, in fact. I was supposed to pay that. Think, people, before you take out these loans that will take you 20, 25 years to pay off. I beg you to think about it, because it would have been, I wouldn't have been in the worst situation in the world because I would have my teacher's pension to go with my Social Security, but it certainly wouldn't be as comfortable as having a teacher's pension, Social Security, and a six-figure, a multiple six-figure savings account. That was something I was very worried about. So basically, this guy is he's in the situation right now that I did not want to be in. Yes, he's got his pension. Yes, he has his Social Security, but he's got no cash. That's bad English. Okay, forgive me. All right. He has no cash savings to go with it. And it's those three legs that I believe make a retirement much more comfortable. This is the position I did not want to be in. But he's still in better position than other people that are retiring with student loans. And, I've done some reactions to that, okay? They're retiring with student loans and literally going into retirement, $100,000, $200,000 in student loans with no way to get out of them. He's got a way out of it.
Did you say you had 4 payments left? You've been on a private
4 years.
Are the public student loan forgiveness for 10 years?
3 years.
You have to make 120 payments on the
The 120 payments is 10 years.
student loan forgiveness.
Yeah, it's
for
10
education. Yeah, I'll meet 120 in April.
Okay. Well, I pray that you are one of the few that works for.
Okay, so December, January, February, March. He's down to months. Oh my goodness. Like I said, I'm going to roll up the screen here for just a second so you can see it along with me. Okay, this was 13 days ago, right down here where the mouse is. He's on the very end of it. But again, he's still not, this is not the situation I would want to be in. He has no cash savings. Now, depending upon, and I don't think the house is paid off either. Don't know if there's any equity on it or not. But we all know that Dave is absolutely against student loan forgiveness.
You are aware that only 4% of the people that apply for that are actually getting it.
I am.
Yeah.
And he has a very, very good likelihood of getting it because he is a public service school teacher. Now, something I will add, and I tell this to the people, I've actually assisted a couple of people with their paperwork on student loan forgiveness. And one of them got it about 6 months ago. So I'm so happy for that particular person. It was a coworker of mine, and they got their forgiveness. Here's the thing. If he's banking on this, which, you know, it's fine. It's a program. It's available. I hope, okay, he has to stay on it until his balance hits zero. I hope he knows this because during the waiver, when they had the waiver going on during 2022, all right, the 21 to 22 thing, they allowed you to not have to be at your job. All right, you could actually leave your job. They'd count your 120 credits, make sure you had it, and then, you know, you were free to go once they verified that you had 120. I will need to look into it because I wasn't quite sure where this was going. But since the PSLF waiver is now gone, it's going to be important for this guy to know, don't leave that job until you've hit zero. Okay, now they may have changed the rules, and actually I'll do some sleuthing on that for you guys. I'm not going to do it tonight, but I'll do some sleuthing on that and get back to you on it because it's important to know this. Because before the waiver came, you were not allowed to leave your job, even though they told you hit 120 payments along with 120 months of service. You were not allowed to leave your job until they actually wrote you a letter and said, okay, you're blessed now. Go ahead. Your balance is zero. So I hope he looks into that. And he says he hits his 120 in April, but there have been modifications in the way the rules run, just like there are modifications now to paying early, and it's much more user friendly. We're not going to get into that now. But there's a risk that if he just ups and leaves his job, and if they're running it like they did, if they're operating the rules and procedures like they did before the pandemic, he can't actually leave that job until they give him a letter that says your loans are officially forgiven.
I've been meticulously keeping my paperwork.
Yeah, I'm not, and that hasn't mattered.
Bull. It matters. I vehemently disagree with that. And you don't hear me say the word vehemently. No, the paperwork is everything. The detail, the timeliness, the accuracy of everything. Okay, you have to understand, loan forgiveness is real. I know people saying, "Oh, no, it's just all fake. It's all, horse bucking." No, it's real. And yes, it has a high rejection rate. But the reason it has a high rejection rate is people aren't being meticulous on the paperwork. They're not admitting if they're in default, okay? And they're letting their accounts sit in default. These things matter. So when he says, well, the paperwork, the meticulous paperwork doesn't matter. Oh, people, do not. Those of you on PSLF, I do not want you to get discouraged thinking that your meticulous paperwork doesn't matter. It's everything to loan forgiveness. And I want to make clear, look, I understand not everybody agrees with loan forgiveness. And I'm not really going to debate, and I actually to some extent refuse to debate. You can argue amongst yourselves in the comment section, just, keep the words appropriate and stuff, okay? But I'm not going to debate with people on whether, loan forgiveness is good or bad. Right. What I will tell you is it's a government program. It was put out there. It's available. If you have the meticulous paperwork and you've met all the requirements, use it. Okay. So when he says meticulous paperwork doesn't matter, it is everything. My meticulous paperwork, making sure signatures, dates, programs were all succinctly lined up and in order. I credit my meticulous paperwork to be 80% of the reason I got loan forgiveness. It was that meticulous attention to detail. I credit that more than the fact that I worked, the 10 years and 10 months of payments. And it did take me, like I've said in earlier videos, it took me about 16 years to get the forgiveness because 2 years I was on forbearance and yada, yada. 2 years the program didn't even exist. So if I take the couple years I was on forbearance, the couple years the program didn't exist, and I looked at how long did it actually take me to get forgiveness, I would say about 12 years. Okay, because of the red tape. But here's the thing. Being meticulous with the paperwork is everything to getting the loan forgiven. It will outweigh the 120 payments you make. It will outweigh the 10 years you put into the job. The paperwork is the proof. The paperwork is what you need as you go through during the 10 years. And every single year you're turning in that employer verification form. Every single year you're submitting the tax returns, which you can now do electronically. You don't even have to submit in your tax returns, upload and all that. You don't even have to do that. When you submit each year for your employer verification form, there's usually a box now and it'll say, just allow us to hook up with the IRS. Hit yes. Okay. That meticulous and attention to detail is everything. So this is where I don't wish for you to listen to Dave and have him say, meticulous to detail is nothing.
Because they're a bunch of freaking liars up there. I mean, I'm serious. When
yeah.
the last time
They were, I don't know if it was that they were liars, because trust me, I could give the middle finger 100 times over to Fed Loan. Okay. Fed Loan, that told me once I was going to have to wait 8 years to get an answer. And I said, why do I have to wait 8 years? They said, well, you're nowhere near loan forgiveness. Okay. And 2 years later, they still hadn't answered my question. So I have a few fingers I could give, a few fingers and toes I could give to Fed Loan. But I don't want people who are going for PSLF to get absorbed in, what Ramsey says about it. Yes, a lot of people have been denied. Yes, it can be difficult to get, especially if you're not in a clear-cut field like public education, military. Instead, you're like, well, I work for a nonprofit in medical. Now it gets a little bit touchy, okay? You have to do a little bit more digging just to see if that nonprofit and if that job within the nonprofit qualifies. It's not quite as clear-cut.
Time I looked, it was 1.16%.
Yes, and I was that 1.16%.
Of them are approved.
And I can tell you how to get it approved. I had mine for 16 years. Look, I don't say listen to me very often, all right? Matter of fact, I even tell my students sometimes, I even tell my students, probably sometimes you shouldn't listen to me, okay? But here's the thing. This is an area that I was able to get that 1.16 approval in. Ramsey's never done it. All right? That's why I'd actually like you to listen to me.
Which is 98% are not. And,
right.
And I promise you they thought they had their paperwork in order. So,
and I did have my paperwork in order. I knew exactly what to do and when to do it. And I will be happy to help any of my audience members get there too. I do not have a problem with that.
The whole thing is a freaking sham, but I sure hope.
It felt like a sham because it was so unorganized and there were no rules, stipulations in place on how to deal with things like what happens if the client if the borrower pays early, how much of it can be paid early. That's now all been sorted out. All of it. That's now been sorted out. That's why this guy needs to be careful not just to up and leave and say, hey, off to, Timbuktu once my April comes. He needs to wait and needs to have communication with his student loan company until that hits zero.
Hope you get it. Okay, so what's the balance on the student loan?
No, he don't really hope. He doesn't really hope you get it, okay? I know you could get it. But the dots have to be dotted. The T's have to be crossed. The I's have to be dotted. It has to be perfect. Absolutely perfect. But I've walked a coworker through it, and she got it. I'm walking another friend through it, Okay? They will get it. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Always remember that. Especially if you are holding on to here's the most comforting thing I can tell somebody that wants PSLF. You need to be holding on to a piece of paper at least once a year that adds up how much that adds up the amount of credits you've earned towards the 120. That is the golden goose. That is the golden egg. And here is something to remember and why it's so important to do it every single year. Let me put this in really simple terms, okay? It's 2023, all right? Let's go back to 2022. Just follow me here, okay? Follow, okay? 2022. Let's say it's December 2022, so end of the year. You send off your employer verification form. They give you a count. All right. They say, hey, you have 30 payments left. You're like, great. 2023 now comes. You don't send off an employer verification form. You don't send one. You got busy. It's the holidays. Guess what? You're not going to get an updated count until you send in your next employer verification form. In other words, you will not get an updated count on your student loan. You will not get a count that tells you how close you are to that 120 payment mark until you send in the employer verification form. This is why many people who actually qualified during the pandemic, that 3 years that we had off, that respectively 3 years we had off, have seen no updated count. Why have you not seen an updated count? Because you have yet to send in the employer verification form. I want you to think of it like this. Your counts are done every time you submit an employer verification form. So some of you out there, okay, in U.S. land, I know some of you are going, I haven't heard my student loan count since, 2020. And you're all frustrated. Right? And I know there are people in this situation because I'm helping a friend through it right now. Hasn't heard anything. Well, you're not going to hear anything until you send in an employer verification form. The counts, the updates are only done when an employer verification form is submitted. Always remember that. I hope that made sense. Any questions about this, by all means, write me in the comments.
Loan.
It's more than doubled since I've had it.
Let me back up.
Sure hope you get it. Okay, so what's the balance on the student loan?
It's more than doubled since I've had it. It's at 225 right now.
And that's because you were holding out for this public student loan forgiveness?
Partially, but even when I was making payments, it was one of those stories where you make your payments and it still grows and
the
grows
minimum
and grows.
doesn't touch it.
Right. And we know this, right? We know that when you pay on income base, it doesn't touch it. True story. All right. True story. When I decided that I was going to aggressively pursue PSLF, public service loan forgiveness, I have to be honest. I didn't care that my student loan balance went up. It went from 85 to 110. I really didn't care because I understood the process. When you understand the process, and if you're willing to do the legwork to make sure that you're following the process, you really don't have to worry that the balance is going up. When you have to worry about it is if you're the type of person that delays, you don't really quite understand the process. You haven't checked to see if the job you're in qualifies. You don't send in your annual tax return. You don't send in your loan verification stuff. You refuse to find out the difference between payee, repayee, and save. Okay? That's when you have to worry. I never worried. I understood exactly what I was doing. I mean, I knew the rules of the game. And like I said, I will help any of my audience members. Just write to me. I will help you through the process. So he wasn't worried, and he's not worried. And I'll be really honest, he's a public school teacher. If he is holding a letter, and that is the key, if he is holding a letter that says he has 4 payments left, no, he doesn't need to worry. Hold on, juice. He doesn't. I'm going to be really honest. Yeah, that makes some people mad. I get it. I'm not here to debate the morality of student loan debt. Sorry, I was putting the cap on my lip gloss. Okay? I'm not here to debate whether, oh, well, you should pay off your student loans. It makes you a better person. Yeah, I'll let you guys debate that in the comments. I'm not going to debate that. It's a government program. If he's holding on to a letter that says he has 4 payments left, and it's a letter from the federal FAFSA, he's fine. He's fine.
Yeah.
Because of the
Yes,
interest.
absolutely.
Which makes me want to burn.
Which is why, and I've said this before, which is why I have always believed, now that I understand it very well, the only people who should be on income-based are public service workers, military, police, firefighters, city, government, state employees, federal government employees. Those are the only people who have any business being on income-based. Not because we don't want other people to be on income-based. Don't get me wrong when I say any business. No, it's not that. It's because that group of people can get the loan forgiven tax-free. He will be able to wipe that out. Again, if he is not holding on to a letter and he's just calling in, saying, well, I got 4 payments left. No, but it sounds like he actually has an official letter. Yeah, I got my official letter during summer, when I was working during the summer 2022, and it said I had 4 payments left. And I was like, dancing for joy. Now, of course, it never feels, you're still waiting for that final letter that says 0. But I knew that I had my ducks in a row. I knew I had the documentation. If he's got that, yes, David and George are going to sit and sigh, and how could he, let this double? Of course it's going to double. He held this loan clearly for even longer than I did, and his loan was most likely even higher as well. Okay? But if you think about it, in 16 years, my loan grew by about $30,000 respectively. But I wasn't worried about it. But this is why only people who are in a public service loan program that is tax-free, they're the only people who should be on income-based. Everybody else, you should not be on it because you will never pay the loan off. And this situation here is proof. My situation is proof. Now, don't forget, and I've said it before, until January 2025, so midnight, December 31st in 2024, all the loans, respectively, forgiven, student loans that are forgiven between now and all through
Burn Washington to the
whoops, I didn't mean,
ground.
hold on. All the student loans forgiven between now and the end of 2024 are tax-free, regardless if you are public service. So before people start jumping on the people who are getting student loans because they are public service and they're getting their loans tax-free, remember, through 2024, even if you aren't public service, guess what? There's no tax on your student loan. Where there would normally be a tax on your forgiven student loan, anybody with a federal student loan, regardless of whether you are public service, and that federal student loan is forgiven before midnight, December 31st, 2024, you pay no taxes on that. Does that make you any less lazy? Does it mean you work any less hard? Of course not.
Good people like you having been misled like this, I sure hope they forgive it.
They will forgive it. If he's holding on to the letter, they will forgive it.
I'm not hopeful, though.
I'm very hopeful, and I've been through the process. Mr. Ramsey has not.
From a practical standpoint. Okay, so let's set that aside.
And I do look at it from a practical standpoint. See, this is one of those things. This is one of those areas. I know my SHI. I know it.
Your first thing is build your emergency fund. Is that your only debt other than your house?
Yes, sir.
Okay, your first debt between now and April, build your emergency fund as big as you can build it.
Okay.
And then let's see if the forgiveness goes through. If it doesn't go through, you're going to have to deal with a student loan. If it does go through, that'll be gone, and then we will move to putting 15% of your income into retirement.
It'll go through. The one thing that I am thrilled about with my loan being forgiven at age 56, all right, is it will allow me to build a multi-$100,000 account. I right now, and I just became debt free a few months ago. Literally just like 90 days ago. Okay. But I now put 35% of my take home income into retirement. And I'm grateful that I have more than a decade, a little bit more than a decade to be able to do that. I would not want to be in his situation. Okay. Only because he's got basically no time to put cash away. Now, maybe, if he pays off the house, I don't know if they can sell it, get equity. I don't know. But I feel very blessed. And I am grateful to the taxpayers. Believe me, I'm very grateful. And I don't say that lightly.
Okay.
And the rest would go towards anything else you can find. You go towards paying extra on the house, regardless if you're going to move. I don't care if you're going to move or not, unless you're going to move next month. But
he should do nothing until he gets that confirmation letter in the mail that says it's zero, or he's been given direct written approval that he may now leave his job. And I would tell that to anybody. PSLF. Okay? It says you hit 120,000. Don't budge from that job without written confirmation. Written, not some dude over the telephone. Written confirmation. Am I free to leave my job and move now that I've hit my 120? Because like I said, before PSLF came, the waiver and all of that, you couldn't leave your job. If you left your job when it hit 120, okay, they would make you go back into public service. Yeah, you'd have to go back into it until they gave you a letter that said you can now leave. They wouldn't make you redo the 120 again, as far as we know, okay? They wouldn't make you do that again. But it would be, oh, well, we didn't clear you yet on the 120, so you need to go back into the public service sector. Easier to just stay until they give you the okay.
Because 3 or 4 or 5 years, who the crap knows when you're going to do that? I mean, I don't know. You don't know even. Just a general feeling you've got. That doesn't change the idea that you need to get a paid-for house. So we need to get a paid-for house and a big old pile of money when we get to retirement. That's the game plan.
He's not really going to have time for that big old pile of cash, but he does have a pension, and that's going to be the saving grace.
Okay. Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and cut that. You guys have probably started noticing I cut the videos off at the end. Once I think the gist of the video is done, I go ahead and cut it off. You can always watch the rest of it yourself, but I think that's pretty much it. All right, folks. I was expecting this to be like a 15-minute video. Leave it to me to figure out how to make a 4-minute video last 32 minutes. Oh, my Lord. Yeah, that's why my parents always said I was chatty. All right, folks, that's it for tonight. It's time to hit the hay. I'm Carrie. This is Student Loan Chit-Chat. I would like to sincerely thank you for joining me this evening. I hope you will consider subscribing. I will try to upload on Monday. Sometimes I need to take a day off now and then, but I will try to upload tomorrow night. We'll just kind of see, okay? But I'm not really far away. I'd like to thank you for watching. I hope you have a great rest of the Sunday night and have a safe return to work on Monday. Bye.